Forced to work from home by your employer? Laid off or feeling depressed at home? Do you want to make money working from anywhere? We'll show you how to do it from your couch. It's time for another episode of the Work From Home Show. Coming to you from their homes in Austin, Texas and Tampa, Florida, here are your hosts, Adam and Naresh.
Welcome back to another episode of the Work From Home Show. I'm your host, Naresh Vissa. As always, joined by my co-host, Adam Schrader. Adam, how are things in Austin?
Oh, just rainy, staying inside, self-isolating.
Yeah, I think that's what we're all doing. And joining us today is a third person who's also self-isolating. Her name is Diana Ennen, and she's the founder of Virtual Word Publishing and the #1 best-selling author of Virtual Assistant, the series. Become a highly successful, sought-after VA, a complete reference guide to starting a successful and profitable virtual assistant business, and also the best-selling author of So You Want to Be a Work-at-Home Mom, a Christian's Guide to Starting a Home-Based Business. Diana, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here.
You really believe in short book titles, huh?
You live and learn with those, you know?
Yeah. So Diana, before we get into the meat of some of the content in your books, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're coming to us from, where you're based right now, your career, your bio, your resume?
Sure. I'm from sunny Florida, so we're in Margate, Florida. I've been working at home since 1985, way back when it wasn't so well known. And today I do a lot of publicity and marketing, virtual assistant services, but with our books, we were really proud to be able to really pioneer the virtual assistant industry at the time. And a lot of VAs are in business because of that. So that makes me very proud to be able to say that. So.
Well, now, hold on a second. You said you've been working from home since the mid-'80s?
Yes, back in 1985.
That's unheard of.
I know.
Because the reason why we started this show in 2020 is because there were so many people who all of a sudden were told that they have to start working from home and they had never done it before. And you're telling me 35 years ago, you started working from home. How did you do that without the internet, without Apple laptop computers and iPhones?
It was crazy back then because people didn't, no one really did it at that time either. And so, I did more back at that time. I did like secretarial, like word processing services, typing, that kind of thing. And it was all pickup and delivery, printed out on my good Tandy 1000 computer. And so I was thrilled when kind of like when the internet and being able to send things virtually came about. So, because I can remember all those segments where it was just like, wow, that makes it easy. I can work for, someone anywhere. And that wasn't the case when we began because it was just pick up, right in your local area.
Now, excuse me, because I got a lot of questions and thoughts going through my mind. Pickup and delivery, this is kind of unheard of to me because I'm a millennial and Adam is also a millennial as well. So how exactly did this work? People were coming to pick up the papers from you and deliver them to your client?
Sure. So, it would be, let's just say one of my clients was an insurance agent. And so we did transcripts for him. So I would go pick up the tapes, I would transcribe the tapes and then I would deliver it to his office. And, I had other clients who would then come to my office and pick it up. But nothing was done over the internet at that time. It was all face-to-face, which really wouldn't work today at all with what we're trying to deal with, with not doing that. So thank goodness we've evolved since then. So
that sounds like a lot of driving.
Oh, it was. And you had to be always like now, you always had to kind of like be prepared, so coming to your house, coming to your home office, so that was a big thing to do too. Plus, when you're dropping something off, because I worked with some doctors as well, that time you're taking from not working because you're, out on the road. So fortunately, we don't have that trouble anymore.
Yeah. So how were you going around finding clients?
Well, you sent out letters, because back then it was, I sent out letters to the different doctors in the area saying that I could help with their transcription. One of the things, I went to local printers in the area and I dropped off my business card, and then the printers would put my cards on their counter. And so I was able to get clients that way. And then just word of mouth. Once one client saw that I could, we don't need someone in the office to do this, I can drop it off and have her do it. And we don't have that expenses. So word of mouth really spread a lot too. And I think that same is true today.
So what gave you the confidence to decide, hey, I'm going to do this thing that nobody else is really doing at the moment? What gave you that confidence?
I did it because my son was born, was one reason, when I work at home but I did have a babysitter, so I was still working full time. But I just knew that, I had worked right before it, I had worked at a medical facility. I'm kind of like setting up testing and everything. And, I'm just a really fast typist, very accurate typist, A personality. And I just thought, I can do this. And one of the mistakes I made early on was that, which is not fortunate, is I got way too busy too soon, because you have to really prepare for that. It sounds like a great problem to have, but at the time it wasn't, because I had, all these clients waiting for their work to be done, but I learned, live and learn.
So when you shifted to work from home, before that shift, were you working in a company? Were you an employee, or did you have offices?
At the time, I was working for a medical facility, and where I was working, it was kind of like where they would, you sign in for your x-rays and your scans or the different testing. And so I was at the front desk there to kind of make sure everything ran smoothly, which, let me tell you, that could be stressful. So, because you do one thing wrong and then they can't have the test. And we were right beside a hospital, so we were very, fast paced. And I think one of the other things was I had waited 2 years for a raise, and I finally got my raise, and it was 25 cents an hour. And I was like, that's crazy, because I was expecting, a raise, So, and they actually turned in to be one of my clients. So that was kind of cool.
That's actually how I was able to start my business. My former employer became one of my clients pretty soon thereafter. My former employer's competitors became my first clients. And then my former employer eventually became a client as well. But in your case, when you shifted to work from home, was that something that you said that your son was born?
Right.
Were you just trying to make some money on the side, or was this something you were like, I want to start a home-based business and actually make good money doing it?
Exactly. It's the second, because I think I took him back. I went to work for like 2 weeks, and I was like, oh, this is terrible. I miss him. But, I wanted, as important as, being there for him, I really wanted a career. I didn't want just this to be on the side or just to make a little extra money. I wanted to make my full-time income. And fortunately, I was able to do that plus.
Yeah, I would definitely say, I started working from home just before my son was born. But to me, just staying home with him wasn't going to be enough. And I think it's important for people to realize that it's okay to want more than that, even if you're working from home. Now, you mentioned that when you first started, you took on too much. Can you talk about kind of how, if you were to start working from home today, how you would go through that ramp up now?
Sure. And one of the biggest things my biggest challenges, when mistakes I made, and you really learn from it, is at the time I was offering all my clients like 24-hour turnaround. So they would drop off a tape, and then by the next day, I would have it back to them. And it worked really great when you have one or two clients. But then when you get more clients, it's like, wait, I can't do this. And I can vividly remember many times, on my desk having just stacks of stuff that needed to be done the next day, which was crazy. So one of the things I did was just, to up that, so instead of you're going to get your work back in 24 hours, you're going to get your work back in 48 hours or 72 hours. And so that was one of the ways I was able to change that. And then today, of course, you can I have subcontractors that work with me so I can, have other people help with it. But at the time, it was just me. So it was just kind of like on the procedures, what can I do? And so with each new client, it was like, I just set them out. That's what set them up for that. You'll get this back in this amount of time. And with my current clients, I was afraid there was going to be a lot of pushback. Oh, no, I need it. And all of them were just, oh, no, that's fine. That's great. Just whatever you need. Because again, one of the things you really want to, when you start working from home, it's great to do, but just make sure that you're really qualified and you're going to learn along the way, but, be skilled, and always do a great job. And I think that's why clients are more than willing to work with you when you provide that, excellent work.
Around what year did you start subcontracting and hiring part-time employees?
That would probably, probably into the early 2000s. No, sooner than that. Probably in 1997, I had a really good interview in USA Today. And after that, I got busier. And at that time, I think I hired somebody to help with me.
I asked because my company, Christian Media Marketing, we have about 13 subcontractors and part-time employees, Adam included. And I told you I'm a millennial. I'm essentially a product of the internet. So it was super easy for me in 2013, when I started my business, to scale this way. But in your case, I guess, did you use you said the interview with USA Today got you some help, but did the internet help you, or was it really that interview with USA Today?
Well, the interview with USA, that was a really, what happened there was I got too much work. I got even more work. And that was when oh my gosh, I can't do this alone. So that's when I knew I needed to find somebody. And I was able to find somebody locally at the time. But the internet would, I think in the early 2000s, that's when I worked with virtual assistants in different areas at that time.
So how do you go around, you obviously work from home. How do you vet potential contractors whenever you're looking to expand? You're obviously not going and flying out to them and meeting.
Right.
Well, not obviously necessarily, but I would assume you're not. And how do you vet them?
Yeah, that's a really good question because it's so important. One of the, a lot of times in our industry, we're very close knit, so, we have a bunch of, like Facebook groups and different groups and conferences I kind of, even before I hire them, I've been watching them online. How do they react? How, what are they sending out? What are their articles looking like? Do they seem skilled? And so even before we have that initial conversation, I've kind of followed them. And that's why it's so important. I know some businesses today, they're on Facebook and they're putting, all this, not negative, but it's really important because a lot of time before someone hires you, before you even hear from them, they have been watching you for a while. So that's really important to know. Is just not that you can't be critical or you can't, but just remember that, what you say could affect a potential client. So that's how I get a lot of the VAs I work with today. And then, the different VA groups like IVA and the different groups, they often will have, virtual assistants that we can hire.
Okay. Now, how do you go around and how do you decide how to price yourself? Because I think a lot of people, when they're going to go out, they're going to think, I have to underbid everybody else to get it. But, you then look at needing to realize as well that when they go out and they do this, their taxes are going to go up because their employer is not holding anything back payroll tax wise. So how do you go around? First off, how do you price yourself? And then also, how do you convince other businesses that, hey, you're going to be paying me a little bit more, but I'm worth it?
Exactly. And that's really important too. It's like, you're going to be paying me a little bit more, but my work speaks for itself. My clients can, tell you how good. But one of the most important things, and I write about this often and share it often whenever I speak, it's, you don't want to underbid because if there's between 2 or 3, let's say virtual assistants, and one of them might be lower, but they're so low, you're not going to feel qualified. You're not going to feel that person can offer you the kind of work that you need. So you don't want to underbid your services at all. And in our industry, we really are very, vocal about that you are hiring, you're not just hiring someone to do a little bit of work, you're hiring a business who takes pride in what they're doing, who is going to do a great job for you, and who's going to stay with you. One of the other things I think is very important is go into this. And, when I can tell clients, once we get working together, we're going to be working together for years. So, the more I know about you and the more you know about me, the better our relationship's going to be. And it's all, really positive that way. And so that's the other thing is you give them that assurance, because there are some, businesses, and if they have too much turnover, so if every time, you start working with someone and then they're like, okay, well, we're changing out, this is going to be the person you're working with now, that can have a negative effect. So you really want to watch that.
Yeah, and you can also pitch the I'm a lot easier to fire than a full-time employee.
True, that's true. We hope it doesn't get to that, but if it does, and then it is a benefits too, because, it's more than just, because a lot of people when they're starting to work at home, they're thinking, okay, well, I made this at my job, so much an hour. But when you're working for yourself, you're not going to have that much an hour. You have to consider, you're not going to be working billable 8 hours a day. You can some days, but I'm just saying you have to consider that. It's not always going to be that billable, 8 hours a day. And so, let's just say, oh, okay, I'm only going to charge 20 an hour. Well, that's, you're not going to have 40 hours, so I think that's important when you're, and the other thing too, is when you're, when you're talking, we have different ways that we bill I'm sure many businesses, but, one of them is like a retainer where you're going to retain me for so many hours every month, and we're going to do this. The other one is like a block of time where, we're going to do a 10-hour block of time, 15-hour block of time, 20-hour block of time. You tell me which one you want. We start with that. We do that work. And then when that time's up, you just get more time. So those are the two ways I usually focus on.
So you said that you started your VA business back in the mid 80s. That was the VA business, or was that a different business?
Back in that day, it was kind of called word processing from home.
Okay.
And then the virtual assistant, the virtual assistant is really started developing in like the late 1990s. And so like in that one interview, USA Today, it was kind of like, starting your virtual assistant business. It was a very new term back then. And even into the early 2000s, when we wrote the first edition of our book, not a lot of people knew what a virtual assistant is. Today, I don't think that is commonplace. Most people know, oh, virtual assistant. Yeah, I've got two, so it's kind of grown since then.
And you went from the medical sales company. What exactly were you doing there? And when you started the VA business, was there any transferable skills that you took with you?
Sure. Yeah, the main thing was, at the time it was, I did medical transcription. I had previously also did some legal work. So I did legal transcription. I went back and got my paralegal degree because I really liked working with attorneys. And so, that's the other thing that you can do is once you, start working, there's so many courses and there's so many, like a paralegal degree at a college that took quite a few years to get, but there's so many courses today that you can get to get those added skills. And then just the typing and the proofreading. I think that helps a lot, is just being, able to catch those mistakes and having a good grammar. Because, when you send someone their work and there's a lot of typos in it or, grammatically incorrect, they're not too happy. So so that kind of transferred over too.
You were just mentioning the whole needing quality. How, in terms of managing your employees now, do you proofread everything they do, or how do you do that?
In different businesses, many of us virtuals, we all set it up differently. But I'm the main contact with my clients. So if I have a VA that, let's just say we do book marketing or we're proofing a manuscript or something, I will be the one that's going to review it. Now, not all virtual assistant businesses or businesses do that. Some of them, they just, they work directly with the client and the main person doesn't, have a hand in everything. That's just how I've kind of set up my business. I like that because I like that one-on-one with my clients. But I don't want to, when I'm working with somebody that's on my team, you're probably won't be on my team very long if every time I get it back, I have to, oh, this is wrong, or this is wrong, or this is wrong. I pay well so that when I get the stuff back, it's good quality, good work.
Well, I'm going to give you a chance to pitch yourself. What are all the services that you offer today?
I do PR marketing. I do book marketing. I do speaker support. I do PR coaching and virtual assistant coaching. One of the biggest things I do is I pitch the media, which is where I write for businesses to get them into national media, whether it's magazines, TV, blogs. And so I do a lot of pitching of the media.
You mentioned before talking about kind of if you're doing it hourly, what kind of software, if any, do people need to know about if they're going to be doing like a 10-hour, 15-hour, 20-hour in order to prove to their client that they're doing what they say they're doing?
Yeah, usually, and usually when you're working with a client, for me, it's kind of like the work speaks for itself. But we let the client know in advance, I think this is going to take around this much time. So they know in advance what, you don't really want surprises. You don't want your client, you send them something and then they think it's going to be 3 hours. And well, that was 25 hours, that's, not a happy camper either. But what I do is, I kind of let my clients know approximately. Then once you work month to month, they have a good sense of what we're going to do. So for one of my clients is a very successful resume writing business. And so one of our things that we do monthly is we write a new article and we pitch it out to the media, the major media. And we're able to really get some great recognition for her because, first of all, we write articles on topics that are, newsworthy. We pitch it to the right people. And then we build those databases, which is a great thing. I use Cision. But I have the editors that, are the, of Forbes or the editors of Fast Company. So, the real people who are going to be able to take your article and actually put it in their publication or on their site. So that really helps. And with that, we just know this month, this is the retainer you've got me for, we've signed up for. And with that, we're going to do an article, we're going to do this, so it's very clear what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you know when you needed to hire another person to help you?
Oh, good one. That was when because there was a time that, I can just remember I was never off. It would be 5 o'clock, everybody else was done. And I, still had so much work to do. And it was just so stressful. And so I couldn't take on any new clients. And that was the other bummer of it. There was some, I did book marketing. There were some great books, business books. I would have loved to have done the work. I had to turn away work. And that's when it really hit me that if I had somebody working with me, then I won't have to turn away these great clients. I can take on more work and I can reassure my clients that the work they're getting is going to be great. Because that's one of the things one of my VA does is she will put that final proof on something. So I might write something or I might review something, send it to her just for that final, hey, did I miss anything? And many times she'll come back with, whoa, I'll be like, how did I not see that? It's clear as day when you see it. But, and it doesn't take her long to do. She just reads over it and then is able to, kind of make me look good. And that's what you want. You want to make sure that the person you're working for is always looking good. Our image is everything,
Yeah, no, it absolutely is, Diana. So you've probably heard of these sites, Upwork and Fiverr and freelance.com. How have they affected your business or how have they improved your business?
A lot of the virtual assistants, we kind of do our own promoting. I don't really hire from that or use those services. I think some of them, the hourly rate is so little. That a lot of virtual assistants don't want to work for that amount. Now, that's not all of them. Sometimes you can get, a good working arrangement with that. But we usually, when we're training another virtual assistant, to start their business or to up their game a little bit, we tell them to kind of do their own marketing and reach out to clients themselves instead of using those. Now, some of my other virtual assistants that I know, in our industry, they use them all the time and with good success. So it really depends on what your preference is.
Why should a company or a person hire you guys, you and your company, instead of going on these sites to find somebody?
I think the main thing is just the quality of, work that they're going to get. the relationship that we get. Because, me and my clients were, especially when you've been together a while, you have that great friendship, that great relationship. Not that you don't get in with that as well, but we invest in you. So when I start with a new client, I'm going to do my due diligence to get to know them, to get to know how I can best work with them and how I can best, make them achieve their goals. And so I think that's the main thing, is you're really building that relationship when you work with us.
I haven't read the book, to be honest, but your second book, So You Want to Be a Work-at-Home Mom, A Christian's Guide to Starting a Home-Based Business. Why was writing a Christian's Guide important?
Because I'm very faith-based. And so my co-author, Jill Hart, she has a site, Christian Work-at-Home Moms. And so we were great friends. We worked together. So she just kind of said, we should write a book together, because her site was exclusively to help Christian work-at-home moms be successful in their business. And so it really worked out well in writing that book. In that book, we have different, it's great work-at-home knowledge, but we also have like some, passages and some, different, a little bit more faith-based, which, I think is really cool. I think that's, really beneficial.
And I think you bring up a really good topic, which is the role of faith and spirituality in business, because I consider myself to be extremely spiritual, and I also happen to be religious. My faith is Hinduism, and I'm a Hindu, and I use Hindu principles to lead my business and to lead my life. And I just think that it's made me a better business person. It's made me more honest. It's made people trust me better. Right. And look, some people, they don't like it. Some of my clients are like, don't you want to do this, and this so you can make more money and buy a Mercedes and fly first class and do all this stuff? And that's not a part of my right. philosophy. It's not. And I've stuck to those principles. And that's why my company's been around for 7 years.
See, isn't that awesome though? That shows in so much too, not just the clients you're working with, but, it just shows that that's kind of business most places want to work with. So that's awesome.
Awesome. Well, Diana, you've been awesome on this episode. We're actually going to hang on because you've been so good. We're going to be coming out with a second episode with you. So to our listeners, thanks a lot for listening to part 1 with Diana Ennen. You can check out her website at virtualwordpublishing.com. That's virtualwordpublishing.com. And you can also check out all her books on Amazon. We will see you on the next episode. Part 2 is coming right up.
And until next time, don't forget to check us out at workfromhomeshow.com. That's workfromhomeshow.com. Feel free to reach out to us, hello@workfromhomeshow.com. If you have any questions for us or for Diana, that's hello@workfromhomeshow.com. And until next time, keep on working from home.